She's here to talk to us a little bit about detoxifying our workplace culture and leveling up our teams. What does that mean for you? Find out some more information right now. Come on, help me welcome to the stage, Darla Shaw.
Hi everybody. Everyone's still awake? Everyone's feet hurting, everyone's hungry, everyone's get the hell out of here. Lauren, sorry, am I allowed to say hell? They threatened to pull me out of here in handcuffs if I swear. I'm like, I'm in HR. Do you understand it's either swearing or drinking? Dr. Darla Shaw, believe it or not, I am an organizational psychologist. It's a fancy word for all I do is sit around and think about people and how they work together. And I had to pay like $100,000 in student loans in order to figure that out, apparently. What I really love to do is help organizations figure out what the hell is going on here. Why is everyone so unhappy? Why is everyone leaving? And why, when I go home every night, am I yelling at my husband who has nothing to do with what's wrong with my life? It's all to do with work. Who here has ever had corporate PTSD? If you already know what that is, then you've no need to ask me. You're qualified as an organizational psychologist already. So corporate PTSD is a new term that we organizational psychologists have coined to talk about the stress that you get in your work environment. And it sucks, y'all. It really sucks. And that's why this whole toxic culture environment is such a hot topic these days. Before I get into it, I want to tell you a little story about Chicago and its history. Don't worry, I will keep this quick. I know everyone wants to get out of here. I will not put you to sleep. This guy named George Pullman, he was the ultimate toxic workplace employer. He had a railroad company. It was one of the largest in the world in the mid-1800s. He decided it wasn't enough. It was not enough for his employees to clock in from 8 to 5. No, he wanted to govern their entire life. He made a corporate town here in Chicago called Pullman. And in that town, literally, he controlled what you ate, when you went to bed, even what you wore. This led, of course, to the Pullman strikes. Yay! What happens when you lay off a bunch of people but don't lower their rent? Gee, I wonder what will happen. That is where most of our U.S. labor laws come from. This is a result of that Pullman strike, which completely halted the entire railroad industry for quite a while. So why is that important? Why do you care? Well, the problem is what happened with the Pullman strike is kind of what the mentality that still happens today. We still have companies that view us not as people, but as kind of machines, right? You're a number. You're not really a community. Pullman did have a good idea about building a community. He just kind of wanted to do it in a dictatorial way. We like to build communities in a different way. So first, I'd like to play a little game, and this is where some of you can have some audience participation. Anyone ever heard of Family Feud? I like Company Feud. So in Company Feud, we're going to ask the questions, what makes a culture toxic? Survey says. Anyone got an idea? Anyone want to participate? There's a purple dragon in it for you if you get a right answer. This lady right here in the lovely little black and white, so I'm going to love it. I like black and white too, in case you haven't noticed. I'm sorry, what? Leadership. Oh my gosh. Guess what? Guess what number one is? You can see I'm getting around this rule, guys, one way or the other. I am going to swear like a sailor throughout here, even if it's just in words. It's going to happen. All right, who's got another one? We got the number one. Let's try this lady up here. What you got? Gossip. Huh. So you're talking about spreading crap that shouldn't go around? That sounds like bad behavior to me. Let's try number 3. See if that's it. Tolerating assholes. Oh, sorry. Illegal behavior, bad or illegal behavior. I'd say gossip would qualify as that. We don't want people gossiping and telling our personal business. All right. Who else has got one? I saw this hand way back there in the back. What you got? Sorry?
Favoritism.
Favoritism. Wow. Yeah? Let's think that might be under number 2. Let's try that. Yeah, stupid rules or policies, I pull that under there because favoritism happens when you don't actually apply the rules consistently and then it becomes stupid. So I would call that a win under that one. If you have a rule that no one only abides by except for a select few, it's not really a rule. And then it's really, really stupid. All right, let's try another one. This gentleman right over here, what do you got? Nepotism? I think that's kind of already up there under tolerating assholes, wouldn't you say? Okay. Yeah, all right. What do we got over here? This gentleman on the end. Workload. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I can't remember. Let's try number 4. Team dysfunction and poor communication. Sounds like you got someone who's not communicating about your workload and how much you should have versus not have, and you got a whole bunch of team dysfunction because no one's picking up the slack. So I would put that under that one, so we can give him one. All right, we got one more on the board.
Promoting poor behavior like workaholics being glorified.
Workaholics being glorified, yeah. I would say that's probably the team dysfunction and poor communication one though, because we're basically saying, we're only going to reward the people who give me their free time without being paid for it. And that creates the team dysfunction. What we got over here? Held not accountable. Again, stupid rules and policies, not being held accountable. We got one more, yes. What? Bullying. Is no one getting what asshole means? Do I need to explain that word? Yes, ma'am. Ooh, I like that one. Let's check out number 5. Undervaluing and not rewarding employees. That's great. Everyone, we have so many ways that culture is toxic. But you will notice, no one ever went up there and said, my paycheck. Everyone wants to be paid more, but that's not why people leave. People are leaving for other reasons. Everything up there as an example. So what does that lead to? Let's take a look at this next slide. So I'm sure no one's ever had this happen in their company. High turnover, low morale, bad reputation, trouble hiring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is what happens. And you would think that some companies would get a clue, and some of them do, but then they don't know what to do about it. But in case you needed further evidence that this is kind of a bad thing, here's like a little snapshot of an turnover calculator for a company that has 200 employees, and they only lose 10 a year, and they're actually spending about $165,000 just in turnover costs, just from losing 10 employees, and that's at a tiny company. And that doesn't even count the performance loss. That's just the cost to replace and train. There is so much expense that goes into losing people. And that's it can be anywhere up to 213% of an annual salary. SHRM did that research, not me. So, and this is just for the people who leave. The people who stay, anyone ever heard of quiet quitting? Which is basically, I sit around, I do the bare minimum, and then I get paid for it. Well, the loss in productivity of that is estimated anywhere up to 300 to 600% of an annual salary. So it's expensive, to say the least. If you're a finance person, you probably care about that crap. If you're an HR person, what you really care about is, it's my job to fix this. How do I do it? Well, they try rewards. Let's give people a pay raise and a bonus. And that works for a little while, and they stay a little longer, all the while secretly looking for another job. Then they try training. Let's get some hotshot in here and give us an out-of-the-box training program and talk to our leaders and make them spend a day in this classroom, like, doing little games and pretending like we're kids again as we team build and go kumbaya. And then let's forget it next week and never touch it again and waste all that money. And then they do surveys. Ooh, let's send out another engagement survey and another pulse, not to crack on anybody here who likes that sort of thing. They can be very, very useful. But I know a company that does them every single month. And I don't know about you, but after a while, I just start clicking buttons and I don't even care. The thing about surveys is people don't really trust people on the other end who are reading them, that they're actually anonymous. And so what they will do is they will either A, verbal vomit everything that's wrong because they don't care anymore, or they'll just be polite. So none of these things really work. You can also throw gift cards in there, birthday parties, maybe you're gonna get a nice little goat yoga program for your people. That's a thing, believe it or not, goat yoga is a thing, I look it up. And all these things we try, but they don't work. Does anyone have an idea of why they don't work? Anyone at all? Not sustainable, okay. What about my lady in the matching outfit? What? They're performative? Yeah? What you got?
They don't address the root cause.
Thank you, my man. Thank you. Thank you. Give him 2. He's got it. They don't address the root issue. They don't address the root issue. People don't give a crap. Okay? And the same with all the other stuff. Oh, you got me a gift card? That's wonderful. How come you denied my time off request last week? So again, everything y'all said was true. Rewards, it's a temporary fix and it feels like a bribe, to be honest. Stay here a little longer. Training, it's often boring. Not my training, but other people's. No measure of success. Again, you take a training. How many people can remember the leadership training they took last year? Or the sexual harassment training you all hopefully took last year because it's mandatory? No one, can anyone quote a slide? No one can. Of course you can't, because you forgot it as soon as you went home and had a glass of wine and went, well, there goes 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. Surveys, no one is honest, no nuanced data. You don't get the full story. So, what does work? So, as I said, I'm an organizational psychologist. No, I do not work alone. But we tried to tackle this problem. We're like, you know what? We've tried so many things out there. Let's actually find something that works. And so we tried it, we tested it, and we did it. We have created something that's a little bit more common sense. Try and give people some practical steps for what actually they can do tomorrow. When you leave this session today, what can I do? Go back to my company to start fixing what's wrong. And it actually produces results rather than the other things that you pay money for and then you just be like, well, that was a waste of my time. So here was the case study that we did. I will not tell you the name of the hotel. I will say that they are a very large hotel starting with an H. That's all I will say. That's all I will say. You can take from that whatever you like. Anyway, their sales were down by 40%. Most hotels get their sales from what? Anyone in the hospitality industry here? Getting butts in beds. Occupancy, that's their occupancy for their beds. It's below 60%. Their turnover, especially at the front desk, but in their sales and housekeeping departments as well, was over 55%. Industry average was about 45% at the time, so they were at least 10% over the industry average. So we worked with them for 3 months, some choice hotels, and their sales increased, their occupancy increased, and we reduced their turnover by half. So it was a very, very quick turnaround. Why? Because we did not waste time with gift cards. We did not waste time with goat yoga. We said we're going to talk to the people, we're going to find out what's wrong, and we're actually going to do something about it. It's a concept, people, but it's an easy one. Here's how you do it. You look at more than just what people are telling you. So we look at the 4 elements of what we call the 4 elements of culture. You've got here justice, safety, resources, and community. Justice. So this is what y'all were talking about where you're like nepotism, not applying the rules consistently. We all expect our leaders to give us a sense of justice. Why can they get away with it and not me? That's not fair. We want to be treated fairly. So this goes into your policies and your procedures, but more than that, how are they applied? How are your workflows? Are they consistent? Behavior reinforcement, fairness and equity, and that's going into not just equity in how you hire, but equity in how you promote and reward people. Accountability, That's a new concept. Allow me to explain. You do something bad happens. It may not be a big bad happen, but it's something that you don't like. Resources. You actually have to give people tools to do their jobs. You actually have to make sure that they have expectations and goals and something to aim towards. You actually have to give them training and proper communication channels and teach them how to use them. And I know all of you know this. This is common sense stuff. As I said, we did not reinvent the wheel here. We just made it easier to understand and break down. Because you cannot swallow an elephant. You have to break it down into little pieces. The next was safety. This goes beyond just a safe work environment, although that has come up. Transparency and respect. That's a big one. Who here has ever worked for a company where transparency was even a slight issue, maybe? Ownership and authority. Who owns what? Who's going to do this? Is it all on me? Why can't we share the load? Well, who's going to do it? We don't know. We never made a RACI chart. We don't even know what that is. Feedback and problem solving. I don't know if anyone has noticed, but people don't know how to think anymore. They don't know how to problem solve anymore. Basic critical thinking skills. Why don't we try a root cause analysis? We teach people how to do that. It's not everyone's fault. Some people just don't come into the workforce being taught how to do that. They don't teach Common Sense 101 in college. I wish they did. And then the last big one, which I think everyone acknowledges and has tried to work on the most, is community. That's where we talk about things like work style alignment. I'll get into that next. But this is values alignment. We talk about hiring to values a lot. I think a lot of people try and do this. But if it's not reinforced by those other things, it's going to fall flat. That's where your inclusion and belonging goes. That's where your cross-functional team dynamics happen. Anyone ever seen a pair of teams that need some therapy? That's what we do, team therapy. So here's the process. Again, we keep it simple. Assess, diagnose, treat, and measure. And I kind of put it like a medical thing, you know? Like you're sick. You know, you got to go in, you got to see the doctor. That's why it's a detox process. So we're going to assess you. We're going to actually talk to people, not just send them a survey. We're going to actually do some few written assessments, yeah, but it's going to be the more specific. We're going to do some process mapping. Look at your processes internally between teams and see what's screwed up. Where's the bottleneck? Who's holding up the line? And why? And why are these two teams arguing? Why aren't they working together? Then we do some data analysis. And then we take all of that information from your processes and your swim lanes and your communication channels, and we diagnose it. We put it on a grid and we say, this is the most financially impactful issue in your organization. All right, this is what's going to cost you the most money. And this is the most community impactful issue in your organization. This is what's pissing people off. This is how we fix it. That's the next piece, where we're going to give you a solution strategy, and then we're going to talk about how we treat it. You'll notice training is at the front of that treat. And when I say training, again, I don't mean put you in a room and, let's play a few games and pretend that we learned something. No. Any training that we do is custom to the actual problem. Any training that you do has sustainability built into it. Who here has ever actually tried to measure training? Do I have some L&D people in here? Can we get a hand for my L&D people? I love my L&D people. You guys are the ones that make it happen. Training is the most important thing in the world, but we very rarely measure it effectively. And that's what we try and strive to do. Process revisions. That's right, we will dig into processes and make it more efficient. But at the same time, the reason why that impacts your culture is because some processes, A, either don't take into account the little people that are getting ignored, and it's making more work for them. I've seen that happen a lot. Or B, you're missing a huge part of the equation, and there's people that have never had their voice heard, and they have ideas on how to fix the process. Also, another thing I'll talk about, and I don't know if it gets talked about enough, is the hourly versus salary war. Has anyone ever heard of that war? Is anyone in that war right now? Okay. So in this process, we analyze where you're at with that war and how do we make those processes and policies a little bit more fair and equal across the board. Because what we like to do is we like to take people out of the boxes that they're in, make sure everyone gets the same opportunities. So again, this is about bringing people together through these processes. And then the last piece, if you'll notice, is measure. That's something that everyone keeps forgetting. If there's any finance or operations or leaders in here, all you care about is show me the money. How does this affect my bottom line? Well, that's what we do. Everything we do has a measurement, an ROI, and a KPI to go with it. So, you can do this in your organization. All you have to do is take this process, assess, diagnose, treat, measure. The assessment piece is honestly the hardest because that requires a ton of data gathering. You have to talk to people at every level of the organization. You have to analyze the data that you've been gathering, looking at your turnover metrics, looking at your exit interviews, looking at where people are falling through the cracks in the processes. And that takes time. It does take time. And I highly suggest if you need a project template or anything like that, you let us know. We can give you one or we can do it for you. It's entirely up to you. But the point is you have a process here that has been used and that has been proven. And the big thing about this, though, is that it's really not that hard to implement once you understand where the problem areas are. Now, the big thing sometimes is when you have a leader who might be the problem, right? And by the way, if they're here with you, you don't have to raise your hand. I won't get you in trouble. But it's sometimes hard when you report up to someone who's the problem to look them in the eye and go, yeah, you're kind of a problem. Sorry. Can we get you into some coaching or something? Please don't fire me. So that's what I'm saying. If you need someone to be the bad guy, you can always just call me and I'll be happy to be the bad guy and go, look, we need to have a discussion. So the last piece I want to talk to you guys about is something really fun and it'll allow you guys to take a quiz and find out. These are our culture archetypes, okay? Again, developed by organizational psychologists. What we do here is we look at how people work, your work style, and what kind of culture your company naturally tends to lean towards, okay? So for me, my company, we're a creative cloud. I'm not gonna lie, in case you haven't noticed, I'm a little loosey-goosey with the rules. And so we're a creative cloud. We don't do the hierarchy rules and the way things have always been done. Now, can anyone imagine what would happen to me, how I would feel if I was put into a steadfast traditional culture? We're talking policies, we're talking structure, we're talking a policy for the policy, for the form, for the policy. How do you think I would fare in that kind of world? Does anyone think I'd last long? I can see some thumbs down. Okay, great. Now, how do you think someone who is highly structured and needs a lot of organization would thrive in a flow innovation culture where everything is changing every single day? Do you think that would be fun for them? No. Okay. So you can see where we're going with this. Everyone has a natural style. There are some people who are blazing performers. All they care about is the next goal. They will work a weekend without complaint. And they don't care. They just want to work. They love it. And that's the blazing performance culture. Just get it done. Yes, you are expected to answer emails on vacation. It is just an unspoken part of this culture. And I can tell you, a harmony balance person, that shit won't fly with them. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I know I'm cussing. Harmony balance people care about people. They care about work-life balance. They care about their families. They care about their community. They can't work in a blazing performance culture where you expect them to give up their weekend. They're going down to the food kitchen and volunteering. What are you talking about? So again, understanding the type of people you're hiring, what their work style is, and then understanding what your company's culture is a key factor when you're bringing people in. I know you've got predictive index, no offense, predictive index people, if you're here, please do not throw vegetables at me. But it doesn't always address this piece, right? It can tell you you know, what your personality is. It's a fun test, but it doesn't tell you where will I thrive, and that's what this is for. So if you're interested and you ever want to take this test for yourself or figure out what your company is currently at, just take this. You can scan it, take a little quiz. It's fun. And this comes as part of our Culture Detox program. It's a pre-employment assessment program, but it's also part of our team building program, where we learn who we are and what our current, there's microcultures, there's departments that have their own culture, and then there's companies that have their own culture. So you can have a creative cloud like marketing, and it's tied to steadfast traditional company. And I'm going to tell you, those marketing people are miserable. Those poor bastards. You hear me, you feel me, she feels me. All right, so again, I'm just going to break down a little bit more about what this involves if you decide to go with us rather than going on your own. You get at least 2 to 3 executive level culture consultants depending on how big your organization is. We do global to enterprise to teeny tiny. It can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months to implement at all levels, again, depending on the severity of your issues. I've had some companies with some severe issues, guys. And that can take a year, I'm not gonna lie, if it's that severe. But you can at least get started. We do a full and complete culture and work style assessment program for you, so you get all of that other stuff. And again, you get the analysis of your people, processes, and communication. So even if you're like, you know what, that was nice, this isn't for me, you still at least see where you're bottlenecked and where all your processes are going down. See, I threw in another one there. And as I said, custom needs-based training, and this isn't that out-of-the-box crap. I'm trying to be better. Communication, root cause analysis, conflict resolution, de-escalation training, all that stuff. I know, I gotta wrap it up. I'm talking too much. But anyway, you get the idea, right? This is us. These are my ladies. We're a female-founded company. That's right, girl power. That's why we get shit done. I threw another one. This is some other stuff we do. It's fun stuff. We love people. We love working with great companies that want to be great. So give me a call.